welcome to the new episode of Rethink, Reconfigure, and Restart. COVID 19 has accelerated the need for urgent responses in pretty much every domain, in every industry, in every aspect. So, what is really keeping the CEO awake at night? To me, amongst other things, cost is one of those elements. How can we remain agile and nimble as an organization and manage our costs effectively? To discuss this aspect, I have my colleague with me, Manish Agrawal. Manish, there are green shoots visible in the economy, yet the health crisis doesn't seem to abate. So, really, the CEOs are caught in a bit of a dilemma around how should we manage cash flows? How should we manage our costs in this environment? How do you think companies are really dealing with the situation?
Dipankar, we are working with our clients to figure out how will we operate and how will we live with COVID. Our clients are asking us to look at reducing fixed costs and converting some of them into variable costs. The idea is to reduce the break-even point so that the plants can continue to operate even when the demand is lower and the utilization level is lower. To do this, we are segregating costs into good costs and bad costs. Good costs are those which are a source of competitive advantage. So think about supply chain and inventory levels. How will I continue to operate in an environment where there are rolling lockdowns? Renegotiating a lot of the vendor agreements, realigning workforce and work operations with the new demand levels. Bad costs, on the other hand, are those which were necessary earlier but are much less so now. To minimize discretionary spend, reduce SG&A cost, capital cost. If demand is uncertain, we are figuring out how to defer capital costs. Similarly, the space and layout, review facility operations and space requirements, particularly in the face of reduced demand. As we are working with our clients on looking at each cost element, we are finding that essentially the cost structure is getting transformed for the new environment.
Thank you, Manish, for that answer there. The next issue, to my mind, which the companies are grappling with, is that they don't have demand, yet they cannot rationalize their manpower. On the other hand, we've got companies which really want to go gangbusters, want to go full steam, but they don't have labor because of, as you know, the migrant labor issue. So how do you solve this dichotomy? Is there something which the companies are doing to resolve this issue?
Several companies are looking at a balance between managing costs and being compassionate towards their manpower. So essentially, they are thinking about tangible means and intangible means. Tangible means are things like productivity and performance that we've always looked at. But intangibles is really about having honest, transparent communication with employees so that it builds trust. In one case, we recently found that the clients gave the option of pay cuts to the employees. And because the communication and the implications, etc., were transparent, the option that the employees chose was actually more sustainable than any of the options that the management was thinking about. With the shortage of blue collar workers, the labor costs are certainly going up. And this is something that has not happened very often in the past. But people are focusing on just more than cost. A lot of effort is going into creating confidence that the workplace is safe for workers to come back to. A key area is to figure out what can be outsourced so that performance can become better linked to outputs on certain functions that are amenable for this.
Thank you very much, Manish, for that. Another element which is a favorite with me is leveraging technology. So, how can automation, how can enabling technologies help organizations manage costs?
Yes, Deepankar, technology absolutely central to this discussion, but people are not looking at it as a way to replace manpower, but using technology to create an environment where it is safe for people to operate. For example, we are working with the government to create a platform where workers and employers can come together to find each other. Going forward, the same platform can also be used for providing urban housing and many other amenities, which are all essential to create the confidence in migrant workers to come back to the cities. A second example is from the captives in financial services. They are looking at work from home as an opportunity for building their BCP for business continuity site to be work from home. Also, the opportunity to tap into the large work pool, the talent pool, which does not need to necessarily be located in our most congested cities. That is a very big opportunity that people are looking at, that people can continue to work from tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities and so on. Also, maybe paying people to work from home could spur a growth in hyper local shared working spaces so that people don't necessarily need to work from home, nor do they need to come to office. I think all of these innovations are being enabled through technology.
Thank you, Manish. All what we have talked about perhaps may apply to the service industry more, or professional services firm a bit more. Is there something different that CEOs need to do in a manufacturing organization setup?
Absolutely, Deepankar. Manufacturing companies are using technology in a big way to look at costs more closely. They are using smart decision making tools. They are bringing spend data together with very smart UI so that decision making is much more real time. They are increasing stringency around approvals. They are using data analytics and they are bringing upfront visibility on costs and elements that normally would become visible much later. Working capital, for example, is a big concern for manufacturing companies. As we see rolling lockdowns, inventory management is very critical. We are finding that the interest in supply chain control tower solution is very high at this time because this solution enables various parts of the supply chain to talk to each other much faster than earlier. Going forward, we expect that the entire supplier ecosystem will also get onboarded onto such platforms. As the supplier contracts are getting renegotiated, the idea is not just to push costs out to the suppliers, but to arrive at a risk sharing which is a lot more sustainable for the main company as well as for the supplier ecosystem. Dipankar, very interesting questions, and I'm sure this whole conversation would be very relevant to all of our clients. I had one question for you. As a leader of a large consulting setup, how are you managing costs and what are you advising clients that you meet regularly?
Yeah, Manish, hearing you, it looks like a lot of advice that we give to our clients is equally applicable to us. The most important thing is around people. People management is really the key in our businesses. So, really, when we think about costs in relation to people, I think so one has to think on grounds of compassion around what works best for them, their anxieties, and so on and so forth. I think so. A happy lot of people is far more positive for an organization like us. It's not that we have not taken the difficult decisions, whether it be a pay cut for our senior people or deferring increments and bonuses and promotions, and now we have announced them. But it is about how you do this, how you communicate it. That's what is important. The second point really is looking at every cost on a zero-based budgeting perspective. Whilst it was about, okay, how we rationalize costs, there was an added benefit. So when we looked at travel costs, of course, there's no travel today, but it was also about, are there certain types of costs which we can do away with all times to come? So clearly, sustainability, and which we have talked about all this time, is a big, big element which comes through. So we are now even further enhancing our work from home models to say that we don't have to travel, for example, as much as we did earlier. Helps the environment, helps everyone. The mantra at the end of the day is to become a far more nimble organization and far more agile organization. So to me, cost management is all about how we become a better place in the future. Thank you, Manish. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Friends, the process of rethinking, reconfiguring, restarting is not an easy one, but yet it is something which we all need to do. We all need to make strategic choices, the choices which will help us emerge stronger. So, till next week with another episode on another topic which is relevant to all of us. See you then.